Hi, I'm Amanda, and I'm here with David Reed. Welcome.
Thank you.
I hear you're the man who has all the compliance question answers.
I don't think I have all the answers, but I can definitely attempt to answer anything that's asked.
Okay.
Got one coming right now, guys. Alex, you want to push
Just
that,
wait.
please?
Okay, we have a comment from Golden Boy. David, what's the scoop on boosters? I've always been confused.
Anyone that donates their time, money, or more or less their efforts to promote an athletic institution is determined to be a booster. And once you're determined to be a booster, you are considered a booster for life. So, something that happened 5 years ago, if you attend an event where there's a surcharge to go to it and it promotes the athletic institution, you may have done it 5 years ago and you don't even really like the team that you attended to see, but you are a booster. And, for us, boosters are essential for what we do. They're very important. The athletic term for them in the NCAA manual is athletic representative, but within the institution, we call them boosters.
We have a question from Worthy. Tell us the biggest difficulty.
The biggest difficulty in compliance is removing the human element from the NCAA legislation. And what some people do not think is a big deal, sometimes to, per se, give a student athlete a gift or a free meal or an item of clothing, things of that nature, sometimes are against the NCAA rules depending on who's giving them to them. And it really is hard as a compliance professional to really separate your personal feelings from the legislation, but unfortunately we don't have that luxury. So we let the legislation dictate our decisions in compliance.
We have a comment from Ridiculous. Hey pal, is it true that a coach can't share a Twinkie or salsa dip with a student athlete?
That is technically inaccurate. Our institutional staff members, which is what a coach would be considered, is permitted to give an occasional meal to a student athlete in a restaurant or at their home. Boosters, unfortunately, are only permitted to provide occasional meals in their home. But in a situation of an institutional staff member, like I just said, we can give an occasional meal or an occasional ride to student athletes, provided compliance is approved that in advance.
We have a comment from PW. Do you think that NCAA will ever adopt a pay-for-play system in football or basketball?
That's a good question. The recently appointed NCAA president came out earlier this week, Mark Emmert, saying that as long as he's president, that will not happen. My personal opinion on it is that we are not a feeder system for the NFL and the NBA, that this is amateur sports and these are student athletes, and they are provided with unlimited tutoring and other opportunities as far as being taken care of with medical privileges, as well as any type of academic endeavor that they so choose to do. So with the scholarship is enough on top of the opportunity and for growth that each institution provides. So I do not think that we should pay student athletes.
Comment from You Need a Crate. Mr. Reed, where were you prior to Miami? What was it like there?
I was previously at the University of Miami. I was the associate athletic director at Marshall University, which is my alma mater. And prior to that, I was a compliance coordinator at the University of Pittsburgh. And it's the things I learned at those two institutions that enabled me to have this opportunity to work at Miami and have the privilege to be here under the current administration.
We have a comment from Blair. Is green your favorite color?
Always, absolutely.
And from Old School Cade, is there a bigger challenge with compliance at the U than other schools in the ACC?
I think so. We're under a little bit different microscope than a school, say Clemson or Virginia Tech, just because we're in a major media market, major city, and there's more things for our student athletes to be exposed to than the rural areas in some of those other ACC schools.
We have a question from Kane's Baby. Of all the compliance issues you see, which one takes up the most of your time?
I spend most of my time in interpreting the rules for recruiting, and I think that's consistent with across the board. All compliance professionals spend most of their time either in monitoring recruiting or interpreting recruiting.
Question from T in South Miami. Do you endorse Luther Campbell in his run for office of Miami mayor?
I live by the code, never discuss religion or politics in public, so.
Good answer. Comment from Kane's grad. Because of Miami's troubles in the past, do you and your staff feel like the NCAA's eyes are always on us?
Not necessarily. I think we set a standard here at the University of Miami, and that standard is we want to be the best not only in the ACC but also the country, and we're not going to forego our standard. And it's just as simple as that. We don't really get in the business of saying everyone's out to get us or they're picking on us. We don't need to do that. So.
Question from Jordan R. What's working with the new football coaching staff been like?
I'm really excited about Coach Golden and the new staff. They're very proactive. They're very committed to doing things the right way, and my experiences with the new regime has been wonderful.
Comment from Bob. How does a private institution differ from a public in terms of compliance issues?
Well, one of the big differences is that we don't have to answer to the sunshine law, things of that nature. So everything that's confidential can remain confidential, and the media doesn't have privileges to our records. Also, being private, it sort of declines our walk-on candidacy throughout the student body because of it's a lot more expensive to go to Miami than it is a state school. So we don't have quite the walk-on pool that the other institutions within the state of Florida have. And having said that, walk-ons are essential to our program, and they mean a lot to all the sports that they participate in.
How prevalent are runners in intercollegiate sports, athletics?
Runners are extremely prevalent. They're everywhere, and they can come from all walks of life. They can be a student that goes to class with our student athletes. They can be family members. They can be wannabe agents. They can be former agents who have lost their license. They can be a lot of things. They come from all walks of life.
Comment from Sebastian in the 813. There seems to be a lot of stress in your job. Do you find some of the rules really petty that take up a lot of your time?
I think there's a lot of rules that should be reviewed at a high level and to be brought from, theoretically to reality. And the theory and when these rules were legislated 20 years ago or 15 years ago or 10 years ago are much different than reality today and what actually goes on.
Comment from PW. What are your thoughts on the NCAA contracting billion-dollar TV deals, but student athletes can't sell a jersey?
Again, it goes back to amateurism, and the unfortunate thing for our student athletes is that the institution can profit from their name, likeness, and their jersey, but they cannot. It's just amateurism. That's the unfortunate bill they pay for the privilege to play college football.
Our last question for you from Blair. I hear you're an adjunct professor for a class in the sports administration program. How do you like teaching, and do you think it's good for students to understand these rules?
Well, I hope it's interesting to the students. I really enjoy being an adjunct professor here at the University of Miami, and I'm so thankful for the privilege to get to do that. It's a great break in the monotony of everyday life for me to go teach. And, the thing I try to stress in my class is that all of these people want to work in the sports industry. Most of them want to work either in professional or amateur sports. Well, if you're going to work in amateur sports and even some levels of professional sports, you need to know the NC2A rules. So my class that I teach is sport